Welcome to Retirement Reimagined, a series of conversations exploring the latest FNB Retirement Survey and what it reveals about the average South African's preparedness and attitude towards retirement. In each episode, we delve into the survey findings and examine interesting themes, including how second careers and entrepreneurship are becoming important components of retirement planning, the perspectives of people over 60 regarding their retirement journey. We also take a realistic look at the financial requirements for a comfortable retirement and the obstacles preventing us from taking action to meet our retirement goals. I'm Maya Fisher-French, personal finance journalist, and today we're diving into what the survey respondents revealed about their retirement planning struggles. As we'll discover, the hurdles they are facing go well beyond just financial concerns. To discuss this further, I'm joined by Bheki Mkhize and Renzi Thirumalai of FNB Wealth and Investments. So Renzi and Bheki, the first thing anyone tells us when we ask them why they don't save for retirement is they do not have enough money. Maybe, Bheki, you can start with that. What is taking all our money?
I think looking at the survey and what participants told us, some of the things that are taking people's money which impact disposable income is things like credit repayments, transport as you moved lower down the segmentation, rent. Those are some of the items, some insurance payments that take up quite a lot of people's disposable income. So people are under pressure where they don't have surplus. That's what they're telling us. They don't have surplus to save for retirement. And then groceries was another one, which was quite a large percentage of their income, more pronounced as you move down the income segmentation.
It's so interesting you say groceries. Whenever I look at somebody's budget and I say to them, how much do you spend on groceries? And then you go and ask them to actually track it. They are spending so much more on groceries than they realize. There's something has happened to our grocery bills that is upsetting everybody. Everyone's very upset about their grocery bills. But of course, you've got grocery bills, then you've got electricity that goes up above inflation. So many of the things that we have to buy and we need to buy are actually really going up well above inflation. And I think is that kind of what you're seeing as well, that just simply the cost of living is really squeezing people.
Yes, no, so it's those basics that you talk about, and like you say, there's also a gap between what people perceive they're spending versus what they're actually spending, and some of the things in the higher income segments, for instance, schooling and school fees is also something that goes up higher than inflation each year, which eats into the ability of people to then save for retirement. And some of the feedback also from people is, that trade-off between saving for retirement versus having something to eat tonight. So those are some of the trade-offs that people are telling us about.
And do you think we're also seeing a trend where, certainly debt has been rising, credit has been rising, and that's just because that's how people are making ends meet?
That's also what the data's telling us. So whether it's credit cards, whether it's stores, store repayments, a lot of that short-term unsecured debt eats into quite a lot of their income.
So it is a little bit of this vicious cycle, of course. So, you don't have enough, so then you take on more credit, can't afford to pay it. It's a little bit like our government at the moment trying to balance budgets, having gone through 3 versions of the national budget this year. But Renzi, I want to come to you because, yes, we know there's a real cost of living crisis. We're not denying that. But also, let's be honest, I could take my family for a lovely holiday this year, or I could go and top up my RA. Which one am I going to do? Okay, so there is also this balance between meeting today's wants and, of course, preparing for those future needs in retirement. How do we deal with that psychologically?
Yes, I think as human beings, we are programmed to prefer immediate gratification. It's a lot easier to say, especially in difficult times. So we work so hard, we're spending most of our money on groceries and all of these things. We have very little disposable income. Where's the chance for me to enjoy a little bit of life? And so you can understand people wanting that pair of shoes, that weekend away, etc. But I think the challenge is that it is not appropriately weighed up against the cost of what you would have got out had you saved it towards retirement. So I think the challenge is in being able to calibrate and weigh the two up. So what people struggle with is it's easy to say, I'll just take 10,000 Rand away this today and put it away towards something that gives me joy today. I don't immediately know what that would have given me in retirement. And a really nice, simple example would be, I think the minimum at Two-Pot is 2,000. So I did that one. Someone who's 30, I can easily see wanting 2,000 Rand out for a pair of new shoes, which I completely understand. But that would grow by retirement to almost 10,000 Rand in today's terms. And given how many people have a final retirement fund credit of 100,000 or less, that's 10% or more of your final outcome. Okay, so now that pair of shoes is being weighed up against a 10% of your retirement outcome. Okay, that sort of now is a more meaningful trade-off. And I think with that information in front of people, I don't know that you change everyone's behavior, but you'd certainly ask questions that would give them cause for pause.
I was just tell you an example I had. It's a real example. There was a woman, early 30s, leaving her job. And I think her retirement balance was just over 300,000. And there was temptation to take it and to pay the tax on it. Of course, you'd pay tax, you'd get out less. Once we did the maths for her, and we said this, even if it grows at 10% per annum, in retirement and current value, it would be like 1.2 million. And that did stop her. She actually said, wow, I never realized that would be the impact in the future. So especially when it comes to these big withdrawals, when you're changing jobs, that's one of the reasons the Two-Pot, of course, was introduced, was to try and stop these big withdrawals from retirement. So it is hard. It's hard to do the maths. It's hard to say, well, today, yes, but means value. It feels more like I'm getting value out of it today, because who knows if I'll be alive in the future. I may win the lotto before then, So we use so many justifications. But before, I also want to carry on a little bit on the psychology of it. Before I get there, though, one of the other things that came up, what was very interesting for me in the survey, and I also picked this up just in my discussions with South Africans and consumers, is there was a lack of knowledge. People said, we don't know where to go. We don't know what products we use. We don't know who to trust. What was the survey telling you, Bheki?
So similarly, I think that came through quite strongly, that people don't know where to go. They don't have information about the various different products. You talk about trust. I think some of the things we've seen even in the previous surveys is, people listen to friends, family, social media sometimes, etc. Interestingly, the branch or bank branches did come up as a high source of information for people around retirement, around advice and stuff. But it did come through that people don't know where to go, and I think for us as an industry, it means we have to do more around simplifying simple language, making sure that people can understand and it's things that they can relate to, rather than big investment jargon that scares people away or people don't really understand. So that's what came through around that.
And I see this a lot as well. So, you spoke a little bit earlier about people leaving jobs and cashing in their pensions, but often they just don't know what to do with the money. I mean, now it's a lot easier. We have defaults. So the company pension fund that you're with, if you leave, you can leave the money with them, right? That's that's been recently introduced. So you can leave the money there. But people were like, I don't know where to go. I don't know who to trust. I may as well take the money and put in my mortgage, for example, or pay off debt. They found that easier to do than go through an investment analysis. And you have, you've got to fill in so many documents to invest, where to borrow money, you don't really. And to pay off debt just feels a lot easier. So I see that. I understand that knowledge is a huge challenge for people. But Renzi, I also think, for me, one of the other things I pick up a lot, and I think we saw it also in the survey, is that people are scared of losing money. And so they're saying, well, I'm just going to stick my money in a fixed deposit, because then at least I know I'm going to get that money. There's this huge fear of investing in something like a retirement annuity or even a tax-free savings account where I'm exposed to the market.
Yeah, so I think the important thing to understand is that risk and return are two sides of the same coin. And so at any point, whatever your decision, to be in cash, to be high up the risk curve in a balance fund, you are taking risk for that return. And what sometimes is maybe misunderstood is that when you sit in cash, people perceive it as riskless, but there is a big risk of your money not keeping pace with the stuff you want to purchase. And we spoke a little bit about that already. So the purchasing power of your money will be eroded if you sit in cash. The converse of that is if you purchase a higher risk product like a balance fund, which is more suited to your outcome in retirement, you have to ride the market wave. And I think that comes to the point about having good counsel around you to help you withstand those market fluctuations. In order to get the return outcome you need, you have to take that risk. And it's important to understand you only take a loss if you crystallize it. If you are invested for the long term, all you have is data in front of you telling you what your value is today. In the middle of COVID, it would have been down a lot, but it was just down on paper. If you are patient, it will recover and it will give you the outcome you need in the fullness of time.
COVID was such a good example. I mean, the market fell 50%. So you would have opened your statement, had heart failure, taken all your money out, and within, I think, 2 months, 3 months, it had practically bounced all the way back up again. And that is part of the challenge. And I do find people find stock market scary. By the way, I have to tell you that I read a survey recently on Gen Z, and they found crypto easier to understand than unit trusts. And I'm thinking, I think maybe they don't understand crypto because I can't imagine crypto being easier to understand than unit trusts. But that gives you an idea how complicated people see the markets. And I think it definitely is another barrier to entry.
So I think complexity is a big challenge in the asset management industry. We are certainly on a journey in FNB to reduce that complexity. Simplicity is a very, very big drive in what we do to try and ensure we meet the customer where they are and we communicate in a way that is simple to understand. And I think we're improving all the time in trying to communicate in ways that will resonate with them. So hopefully we can close that complexity gap over time.
Although I must just say, I'm not plugging just because I'm doing this for you, but I really love the integration of the unit trusts on the app because it's very low cost, very easy to use. You don't very low minimums, and I think it's those sorts of things. When I tell people, and I say, well, if you bank with FNB, you can just invest in unit trusts very easily. It's getting rid of those obstacles.
Yes.
That definitely does make a difference.
Yeah, so I think that, I mean, access, it goes back to the survey stuff. Access, simplicity, simple language, those things will help. I think to your point around Bitcoin and the Gen Zs, it's because everyone believes Bitcoin only goes up, right? And they haven't experienced where there's a period where
it does go down, but they somehow believe it's just going to bounce back up again.
They just think it's going to go back up all the time. So yeah.
Well, it's the quantums, right? So they can see money being made so quickly, where the small incremental gains is not so much for them, I think.
Yeah.
Which brings us back actually to psychology. And procrastination came up as a big factor in your survey. And I was thinking about the procrastination as well when I was talking about how easy it is to open the unit trust on the app. What do you think drives that procrastination? Is it just a human? We're just lazy.
I think it's because people think they have a lot of time still left. So you see it in if you look at the post-60s, some of the questions asked and their responses, a lot of them I thought I still had enough time to make up for what I didn't do earlier. You look at some of the questions even on wills and practically what we see, people think, I'll get to a will one day. Like it's not for now. I'll get to it. I know I need to do it, but it's one of those things that I'll get to. So planning for retirement is also one of those where people just think I still have a lot of time. I'll get to it when I can. I'm still busy with the day-to-day stuff that needs me today. And look, we did see some shifts in some of that. It is changing with more education, with more awareness into the market, but not enough to be able to move the dial significantly to get us to where we need to be.
I mean, I tell you, but it is, your own finances and that is a bit boring. It really is. And sit there and now I've got to go and do a will and I've got to find somebody and I've got to trust that person and I don't know. I get it, to be perfectly honest. I really do get it. So how do we help people overcome these challenges? Renzi, maybe you can start. Like how do we've got a problem with the fact that people feel they don't have enough money. They're struggling with knowledge and where to go. Then there's just the human factor of procrastination, fear of markets. How do we get all these people watching and listening now to take that next step?
One of the challenges with procrastination Bheki touched on was time. We often say compounding is the eighth wonder of the world, but you need to give it time to work. And I think because we often think linearly, we don't appreciate the exponential benefit that compounding gives you. You need decades for it to work not years. And when you think in years, you think you have enough time. So part of that responsibility, I think, largely sits on us as financial institutions to provide the knowledge to clients to help inform them better so that they appreciate how long they need to save for to see the full benefit. I think that provision of information is the biggest benefit we can give customers. And then some of the other stuff is just behavioral. It's the same thing when it comes to, fitness, etc. It's having a plan and sticking to it. So if I just pay my gym contract every month, I won't get any fitter. I've got to show up. And so one of the things I often think about is when it's automated and there's less decisioning. So if I set a debit order that says I'm contributing to my retirement for X every month, there's less discretion. It's done. And there's a bit of friction for me to overcome that and reverse it for an immediate need. So I think those kind of behavioral things can really assist.
And I want to add to that is when you put that debit order in to have the escalation. If you're 25 years old and you're putting away 500 Rand a month into your RA, for example, but you never adjust it, it's not going to keep up with inflation. And you're going to get to retirement and think, but I had this RA, why did it not deliver? Because that 500 Rand has to go up by your salary increases, your, inflation. So I think for me, another little add-on is just to tick that box saying, yes, let it escalate every year. And then it's kind of like automated to some degree.
I agree. I mean, if you don't have that increasing sort of each year, you're going to struggle to then keep up. And also where people get, we always position where people get increases or bonuses, try and see how much of that you can put away just to add to what you're already saving if you're struggling, say, monthly, etc. And it then becomes a discipline. It's the point that, Renzi made around exercise and gym. It's hard. So we appreciate to people that, the discipline around saving or investing is hard. And the other thing to your question that I think the industry we can do more of is probably shift from a stick approach, because normally people would go to their advisor and advisor would say, you're so far behind, you need to put in 20,000 Rand a month, otherwise you'll never catch up.
They
so
just
people
cry and they
people
run away.
just exactly, they just like, that's too much, I'll never get to it. Almost flip it around, instead of a stick approach, to find ways of positioning it as a reward. And that's some of the things that we've tried to do, is how do we reward clients for good investment decisions and investing, etc., whether it be by e-bucks, etc. So it's also, that's probably something in the industry we just need to look at, instead of the stick approach, have a reward approach where, it's like going to a dietitian. They're going to tell you eat vegetables, but that's boring compared to eating fast foods, right? But that the vegetables are good for you. So it's just, how do you then, without the stick approach, actually use.
And you know what? People do anything for free smoothies and coffees. So, they'll even put money into a retirement annuity for that. So there you go. It's all about psychology, actually, everybody. So this entire session has all been about trying to trick you into doing the right thing for your future self. That's actually is what this is about. So I think maybe to sum up, obviously, it's great to get advice. One thing that I find with my financial planner is that he keeps phoning me once a year and forcing me to see him, which is great, because then I review my stuff. Are my finances on track? Are my insurances still doing what they need to do? So advice with annual reviews, I think, really useful. Having a proper plan. But I would just like to sum up, just start. Don't procrastinate. Just start that, at least take that first step. Let time work for you, as Renzi said, and that is how we will achieve those goals. That's how you know that when you turn 65, things will be a lot better off than maybe they are currently for your parents, for example. So thank you to both of you for joining us and for providing some of the highlights from the survey. And for those of you listening, if you would like more details on the survey, and it is quite interesting, I have to tell you, you can go to the FNB website, or you can also see the link below. And if you haven't already done so, this is the 6th episode already. We have already covered so many interesting discussions around how to prepare and plan for your retirement. So please go back and listen to those if you haven't already.